Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Hey Chargers, we created a learning library on our website just for you. Go to chargepodcast.com and click on the link Learning Center. We have articles like 7 steps to build your morning routine, 8 tips to manage stress. We also created some free downloads for you like 8 steps to replace work fatigue and productivity and recovery. Or how about 20 productivity hacks? These resources are made just for you. Remember, go to chargepodcast.com and click on the Learning Center. Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back again this week for another great podcast. I'm telling you, 2022 is counting down. It's going by fast. But the thing I've done this quarter is set people up that will help you really make 2023 successful. And I think we've done it again. So today I've got Aaron with us. Aaron, would you share with the Charge Podcast listeners, what problem are you going to help solve for them today?
Yeah, help understand what link building is and how to navigate that whole industry of SEO and link building better.
Well, I love this topic because it's something today. That's how we get clients, and that's how we're able to get our customers. So the thing is, Aaron Anderson has been working in the SEO industry full-time since 2013. While working and consulting for multiple SEO agencies, he saw a big demand for high-quality link building services, which led him to start offering those services as a freelancer and then growing those services into a full-fledged link building agency. He is also the host of the podcast, Let's Talk Link Building, which dives into all the different approaches and strategies one might take to build backlinks for their online business. Aaron, it is great to have you on the Charge Podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this because I think it's a topic that, to be quite honest, a lot of us business owners, we're trying to run our day-to-day business. And for some of us, we're very in tune to what the web can do for us and what link building can do. But for some of us, we're not. So we're going to start from the basics, if it's okay, Aaron. I'm going to take you back to 2013. When you first got started, I'm sure you had to learn some things as you started out. Can you first share with us really what is link building and why is it so important with SEO and with your website?
Sure. Yeah. So this is a conversation that I have with a lot of people. Anytime I tell people what I do, I kind of have to explain the basics. And so I'm pretty used to doing so. So just a very brief explanation of SEO is, when you type something into Google, Google has, a million of options of websites that they can show you. So they have 2 main things that they're looking at. This is a very brief, very simplistic way to look at it, but it's also pretty true. They have 2 main things they look at to determine what sites they're going to show you. The first thing they look at is content, both the content of what you wrote, like, okay, what does this person want? And then they evaluate the content on all the websites and say, what content is best, either solving the problem the person's looking for or giving the service they're looking for or whatever it is. So they understand the content of your query and then the content of the websites and try to match those up. But even when they do that correctly or properly, they still have thousands of results. So then how do they choose from those results to give you, and the next thing they look at is really authority and trust. And so if you think of it, when you were like doing a research project or something in school and the professor says you need to cite your sources, at the very bottom, you put a link to where you put all the information of, I got my information from these people, from these sources. Well, on the internet, the way that we do that is we don't have like a bibliography or whatever at the end. We just add a link and we say, oh, in this New York Times article, and then we that's a clickable, it's usually blue or something, where you can click on it and it takes you to the New York Times. Well, the way that Google looks at this is a vote of confidence. So the more links that a website has, the more trusted that site is. So a site like Wikipedia has links from all these different websites, so it must be a trustworthy site. Or a site that just launched today that nobody knows about, it has no links from anybody, there's no authority or trust. So that's kind of the basic, way that Google looks at this is the more links that a site has, the more it can trust it, and the more it thinks it's a site that it would be fine sending users to. The less links are, the less trust there is. So that's kind of the very basic way to understand, what backlinks are and why they're important.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think we set the foundation then. And I think people remember now they've seen those, but I've got a lot of business owners that's on here and you hear why that's so important. But I guess sometimes people would think sometimes those backlinks, I'm sending them somewhere else though, versus my own. So when we're really talking about for our business and our website, it becomes so crucial. Can you kind of share what you've learned over the years and what you're using with your clients now with backlinks, why it's so important to have those and to be able to have those other places that people are going? Because I know you said content and authority. Now it's given us the authority, but what does it do for our website?
Sure. So just to clarify, if you're writing a blog post on your website and you, like I mentioned before, you reference the New York Times and you link to them. So that is a vote of confidence for their website. So when you link to them, you're giving them some sort of authority or some sort of vote of confidence. In the SEO industry, they call it link juice. You're passing some juice to them by linking to them. So when you link out, you are giving these votes of confidence to other websites. So what's the most beneficial to you is to get other websites to add a link to you. So because you may not have, maybe you just started your business or you've just never done any SEO, you don't have much authority. So the links that maybe you're linking out to others, maybe there's not a ton of value from them because you don't have much yourself. But if you can get the New York Times to link to you, well, that's a big vote of confidence. Or you can get the Washington Post, or the more authoritative the site is that links to you, the more that can benefit your site. So, I think for businesses, if you're just starting out, this can seem kind of daunting. Well, how can I get other sites to link to me? Well, a lot of us, we already have existing relationships or things that we can leverage to get those backlinks. So maybe, you have suppliers or you have people that you work with that, for example, like e-commerce, they have a site, maybe they sell a product. And if you go to that product's website, they have you can buy our product from these retailers, and they have a link to certain retailers, and you can check, they don't have a link to us, and you can reach out and say, hey, you have a link to the retailers, you don't have us, can you include us? So there are some ways to kind of do this for any business. In the first place, I always kind of recommend businesses start, if they haven't done much of this, is just think of who you already know, you already have a relationship with, and can you leverage some of those existing relationships to kind of start getting those backlinks to your site?
Yeah, I could see why that's so valuable, but that also becomes why it's so important. You talked about content. I know I just went through a website rebuild recently, and one of the things that we're doing a lot better job of is we're now putting content out that's really going after our ideal customer avatar, or whatever word you want to use for those individuals, of creating that content. And of course, then it's about, now I need to take that content and really get some people to link up to that, because that's going to give me a higher credibility, trust, and I'll come up to scale then with the Google side of things.
Yes, for sure. And the content that tends to garner links, there's certain types of content that tends to do better at getting other people to link to it. So like you may write a post that is informational and interesting, but maybe to get links, it's hard to get people to link to it. But there are certain types of content that do well at this. So generally things that, if you think of like another site owner, what would be most helpful to them is something that's going to be non-promotional. It's going to be like something that's helpful to their business. So sometimes like maybe a free tool, like I was listening to some podcast episodes where someone had like a quiz or a test you could take. So maybe it's like a free assessment, some of these types of things that seem purely informational and purely, for others' benefit, and maybe on the surface don't seem like they're pushing your product or your service. Those are things that people are very willing to link to. So sometimes like just a plain blog post might be hard to get someone to link to. based on the value, but you can think of other things. Well, in my niche or my industry, what's like something that I could create that would actually be super helpful to other people in this industry? And then those types of content, because content might be written for, whoever your audience is, but when you're thinking of who might link to this, you build that content for other site owners or people that can actually add links. And so it's a little different. Your audience is like, okay, how can I build something that other people would find value and be able to build something they'll link to?
Okay. So with the backlinks, as we get those on the other sites, that grows our trust and credibility for our own site, as well as to be able to link in those areas. And really, normally people have some SEO numbers, and you might even talk a little bit about that if you don't mind, Aaron, because really, we know SEO is search engine optimization, but ultimately, you want to be pulled up and you want to be in that category when that time comes. So when we're linking with others and getting that on other people's site, that's giving us more of that trust and credibility, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So when you're getting backlinks from others, obviously, so like we say, it's a vote of confidence. To get a backlink from another site is a vote of confidence. But the way this is perceived by Google is like, the more trusted that site is, the better that backlink is. So and it's going to be more difficult to get a link from a big publication that everybody is familiar with. And so the link if you got a link from a site like that, that is going to have more of an impact than getting a link from another website that nobody else has heard of. So that's the thing, is you can get, if you're just starting out, any link is beneficial if it's done with like real people behind it.
Yeah.
Obviously I would suggest avoiding these types of services if you go on Fiverr, because the problem is sometimes people think, oh, I need links. They go on Fiverr and they see people selling these, get 5,000 backlinks for $10 or whatever. And there are a lot of things that have been done in the past and that people continue to do and sell these things where they're building backlinks, but they're automating a lot of the process, or they're building random websites that don't have value and linking from them. So there's a lot of weird things in the industry, and that it can be difficult to navigate. So it has to make sense. Why is someone linking to you? And it has to be from another website that is actually like a real person or real business behind it, because there is a whole industry of websites that exist for the sole purpose of selling backlinks. So you do have to be careful if you start going out there that you don't get caught into any of these traps of either people are selling backlinks super cheap for a large quantity, it's not going to be the value you're looking for, or these websites that exist purely just to sell you backlinks.
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because when I saw your research is, number one, you found a niche in the market. So you now are an entrepreneur because you decided, oh, I'm going to do this at first freelance, and now you're taking that to the next level within your company. So I love getting people on that see the challenges or issues of something that people are trying to sell. They're trying to make it an easy widget, really, is what they're doing, versus what your company is trying to do is really build on their link building that you're doing with them. So in your business, when you look at the outsource, when people are looking to outsource their link building, you kind of touched on a couple of those there. Some of the things we've got to be really careful about. What should they really look in that service provider to know that they're getting value, not, a package that sounds good, but really isn't going to take them to the next level that they're looking for?
Sure. I would suggest the main thing you look for if you're going to outsource this is look for somebody that's very transparent about what they do and why. And I think I've seen clients that are paying a lot of money and they send me like the links they're getting, and I'm appalled at like the links that they're paying so much money for, because to me, I'm like, wow, these are really bad links. You could have been paying, you could have paid like $5 or $10 on Fiverr for these, and you're getting, buying these for thousands of dollars. So, I think you look for transparency, look for someone that's willing to educate you, like as you're asking questions, like if it makes sense, not make sense, and get different opinions. That's one thing I'm always happy to take a look for people if they, say, oh, this company's doing this. Can you take a look at these backlinks? And I'm always happy to take a look and give people my thoughts on, oh yeah, like, yeah, what they're doing is fine. Or, well, this is where it sits on the scale of risk. But I think most important, you get someone, generally speaking, you want someone that's doing outreach, because the idea is that a lot of people, what they do is they build these databases of sites that they know, okay, this site, I know they'll sell me a link for whatever, and then I can sell that link for this price, and I can just sell someone the link and then turn around and go buy the link. That's bad, because a lot of these lists of sites that are so open about what they're willing to sell links for, like these are sites that Google tries to identify, and they try to ignore their links, or worse, like you could potentially get penalized from getting links from these sites. So that's some of the risk if you start going into this. So if someone sends you a list of like a spreadsheet and says, here's all the websites I can get links from for you, and here's the prices, I would run. If someone says, I can get you thousands, if it's ever in the hundreds or thousands for a low price, I would run. If they're not willing to explain their strategies behind like what they're doing and how they're doing it, or they're not willing to show you. I've heard of some agencies that they do not show the clients where the links are coming from.
Yeah.
If someone is not willing to be transparent with you, I would run. So those are some things that you should look for. Look for someone that, is doing outreach and is going to be transparent and open with you. So those would be my main suggestions.
And I think one I would add in there is the one that people that want to educate you on the process. I mean, and that's, I can tell already, number one, that's where you're willing to get on podcasts. Yes, it lets people know about you and your company, and we're going to have links to what that is that they can go check you out. I've already looked at your website, and I can tell from that you're about educating people on what they need to get. And it really comes back to the old know, like, and trust. You've got to know what you're getting. If it sounds too good to be true, normally it is. Because they found, just because they found a way to make it simple and easy for them, yeah, they're cashing in on it, but it's not always benefiting you. And I think that becomes the key. So, Aaron, if you was looking at this, you shared some of those right there with that. Why don't you go ahead and share at this time your website so they can, I'll have that in show notes for them too. So if they want to get some more information, because that's what we're trying to do, is educate people, because they need to have business owners. You may say, well, I don't know this top priority. Well, if you're redoing your website, this needs to become part of that priority to get up on the list. So why don't you share that, and then anything else that you really like to share about how you do the business, go ahead and share that now. And not as a sales pitch, but this is how we kind of go about our process.
Sure. Yeah. Like you mentioned, I'm not like much of a pushy salesperson. Like for me, it's about educating people about what their options are and what makes sense for their business. So there are a lot of clients that I cannot work with, and I have to be pretty open about that. My business is, it's called Link Pitch at linkpitch.io. We tend to specialize in helping businesses that primarily online businesses, because online businesses recognize the importance of investing on this on an ongoing basis and link building. So maybe small businesses that only want to do it for a month or two, and normally wouldn't be a fit. It's something like an ongoing service that we like to provide. And our approach is very outreach driven. So we don't have any sort of like databases or anything. We generally outreach as if we're the client. So if I was doing outreach for you, I would ask you for an email address, or I would create an email address, and I would outreach as if I am you on your behalf to sites, and just reach out to businesses and find the angles that would work. And so that's one thing that for me, to bring on a client, I do have to see like content or angles that would work in that industry. And sometimes certain industries or niches where it's very, very niche, it can be really challenging. But I'm always happy to take a look at a website and give people my thoughts on the best way to proceed. Sometimes, that might be working with me. And sometimes I would say, oh, if you want to do this on your own, this is what I would suggest. Or, here's some other companies that it might be a better fit for you or whatever.
Well, I think that's the key. And I think that's what I wanted to do today, is just make people aware of what it is. And a lot of business owners, we get a lot of information, but the thing that I'm trying to do on the podcast is helping them in ways that they can help their business. Number one, if you're not doing anything with your website, besides you've had it up 5 years ago, Aaron's not your client. You're not his client and stuff on that side. But you need to think about how are we using the website to generate business, because it's the new yellow pages. It's been a new yellow pages for quite a while, but people are going there first. And you have to realize people are Googling all the time. And that's how you're being seen. And that's why we updated our website just recently, because we knew it needed a refresh. Plus, we weren't speaking to our audience like we needed to. And now we've got it very targeted for what we need. And I think business owners have to look at that. And I just really appreciate you, Aaron, being willing to share your expertise with I call them chargers, my listeners, and letting them learn from you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure for me to talk about link building. It's like for a lot of people, it's like this voodoo magic, this black box, and it's very, it pains me to hear people that come to me and they've hired 3 agencies in the past. And they've had all these negative experiences before. And that's not an uncommon situation. I've had so many of those conversations. So to me, that's like, it's sad that I'm kind of in an industry that, has some of that reputation. So, anything I can do to help people understand better, like what's out there and what the options are for them, I'm happy to do.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Again, that website is linkpitch.io. That will be in show notes at chargepodcast.com. So please check out his website. You'll learn from that. I looked at it ahead of time, and there's some great information on there that tell you to check out. Now, before I let you go, Aaron, I always ask every guest 2 questions. They're what I call the recharge round. The podcast is named Charge. That's a mantra of mine. Create habits around real goals every day. What habit do you think's led to success in your life?
Well, I think for me, it's, I as I was trying to, maybe kind of find my place and identify what I wanted to do and whatever, I think what I kind of identified, it's like knowing myself and what keeps me motivated. And for me personally, it's creating value. At first I thought I had money goals and I realized money wasn't motivator or whatever. So it's like, as long as I can do something that I feel like I can create value for people, that's what really helps me feel fulfilled. So it's kind of identifying that. And then just understanding, like if I was in a job or something and I wasn't feeling like there's enough value, is learning to let that go and find something that was a better fit. So that was kind of like, I guess, my guiding star that kind of got me into different roles or situations where I could help people out. So.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. We've all made mistakes. We all have failures that happen. The one reason I ask this question is because sometimes I think because we're on a guest on a podcast or we're the moderator of the podcast that, we've not done that, but we make mistakes ourselves, but we learn from them. What it was one of those that maybe mistakes could be, you could classify as a failure, whatever you decide, that if you had that little fairy that came and gave you one wish to do that over, what would it be for you?
I guess the only thing for me that I would say is when I tried to start like scaling my business, I didn't have confidence that it would be possible to scale and train people and get them to maintain the quality that I thought was necessary. And that was something that until I kind of had a first hire where that was successful, that was kind of my green light moment. So, if I could go back, obviously I would just embed myself with the confidence to start knowing this is possible. You just kind of have to go through the process to get there. And I think people that haven't maybe had been able to hire help that have been like, wow, this is amazing. Sometimes it can be held back because you're not confident or that you can get there. So.
Yeah. Well, what a great one, because a lot of entrepreneurs have that same challenge. They want to get somewhere, but they can't get outside of themselves. So they never get a chance to scale. And you're never going to have your first 2 could be a mistake, but you learn from that. And then putting a process in place to find the right people, you get the right people on the bus, it makes yourself be able to scale a lot faster. So thanks for sharing that, Aaron. Aaron, truly appreciate having you on the Charge podcast. Again, share with them that website one more time. And like I said, we'll have it in show notes for them. And any ways that they can connect with you on your social media channels.
Yeah, sure. So you can come to our website, linkpitch.io. I also have a podcast, Let's Talk Link Building, if you're into more of the the technical aspects of link building, you can follow me. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I think it's Aaron Anderson too. So yeah, happy to connect.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming again today and sharing with our chargers and giving them some great information. Chargers, my thing for you is, this topic may fit your business. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it was a reminder that you need to get on your schedule that you're going to redo your website in 2023. And if that's the case, then let's start making plans for it now, because you're missing out on opportunities, because your customers, your clients, your people that are buying your services are on the web trying to find you. And if they can't find you, they're not doing business with you. And link building can be a big part of that, as Aaron shared with us today. So I'll give you that as your action item. Look at your website. What needs to be changed, or does it need to be overhauled, and make some of those changes? Or do you need to add a few things like link building that will get you noticed more, and some content along with that? So thanks for joining us today, Chargers. We're going to come back next week with another great podcast guest. So come back and join us. Remember, if you can like and share this and let others know about it, that's how we keep growing our podcast. Make it a great day. We'll see you next week.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.